Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
This is my top 5 podcasting tips. Now, you may be asking, why should I listen to you? I have been producing podcasts since 2009. Technically, my first podcast was in 2008, but I started producing them consistently 2009. I produced probably close to 10 different podcasts over the years of my own. I've helped countless people start their own podcasts. I've experienced all of the different podcasts that there are. So these are my top 5 with the experience that I've drawn over the years that I want to share to you. Because podcasting, super easy to start, but I think there's a few things that people could use, they could find useful. So number 5, starting off with number 5, my top 5 podcasting tips is to keep it simple. Everybody loves This American Life. Everybody loves these podcasts that have the production value where they're taking all these different things and editing them all together and making it like a real radio show. That's fine. That's fine. You can do that if that's something you really want to do. My thing is, it's hard to sustain that if you're producing this yourself. That is a very difficult thing to do. So if you're an independent podcaster, if you're just a single person, I've done all of my work. I edit all of the shows, audio, video. I produce everything myself. I'm a one-man band, a one-man show. So one thing I would say is keep it simple. You can always evolve your show over the years if you want to add complexity to it. Like if you start out in audio and you want to add video and then you want to add clips, you can always add and you can always grow and you can always evolve. But I would say to get it started, it's hard to stay consistent. The thing is to keep it simple. I mean, you look at something like This American Life, very popular show, amazing, does great, amazing audio quality, top notch. But then you look at something that's like JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, where it's just 2 people, 2 mics, there's some cameras set up, one guy's switching, but it's very simple. And probably the most popular podcast ever. So keep it simple. Don't overextend yourself. Don't try and do too much at once. See what's sustainable to you. And you can always grow. You can always change and always evolve. So number 5, keep it simple. Number 4, my number 4 tip for podcasting is SEO, search engine optimization. So every time you post an episode, you have to put in the title, you have to put in the description, you have to put in tags. And if you're doing it right, you're putting that information in not only for the file you're uploading to your podcast host, but you're putting it into a website. You're putting it into, if you're putting it out in different areas, you're putting it out, you're going to have to fill all that stuff out. So what I use for SEO is I make myself a template on Notepad. I use Apple products, so I use the Notepad app, but you can use whatever version of that, Google Docs, a lot of people. But basically, I do that, and then it's just copy and paste. Change the titles. But all the, I try to keep the template for things like sponsors and just different links to different things, and just have to change the description, the title, some tags. So it really helps because SEO is something that most people don't even think about doing. And what that does, the idea of SEO is that, like, if your podcast is about puppets, you want to have puppets in the title, you want to have puppets in the word puppets in the title, the description, and the tags. The more places you have that word, the more likely it will be to show up on somebody's search. So using Notepad can be a valuable tool for making that aspect of uploading and updating your podcast every time you post. It makes it just that much easier. So that's my number 4 tip for podcasting. My number 3 tip for podcasting is to share it everywhere. So many people are afraid that if they put their thing out, that they're going to be internet famous and they're going to be judged and they're going to be scrutinized because it's like, oh, it's so new, so they have to like wait until, the thing is perfect before I release it. Nobody cares. It is so infinitely difficult to become popular in podcasting. Everybody's doing it. People actually know. It was difficult when I started, and nobody even knew what podcasting was back then. Now everybody knows what a podcast is, so it's even more difficult. So make sure you share it everywhere. Whether make sure, if you're uploading just audio, make sure that it's available on iTunes. Generally, a lot of other streaming services, other apps, whether you're using like Overcast or Laughable or all the different podcasting apps, generally they get information from the Apple Podcast, so you don't have to actually do anything to set it up. But make sure you're set up. Test it out. Make sure it's available on all the apps. And then also promote it everywhere. Promote it on all your social medias. Make sure everybody knows. Do as much promotion. Share everywhere. Put it everywhere. Nobody sees anything. Nobody cares. So make sure people, if they don't see it and they don't hear about it, they're never going to subscribe. So share it everywhere. Okay, make sure it's many. If you're doing just an audio, set up a YouTube page and just put the audio up without video. Hopefully, I recommend doing video eventually. But even if you're just doing an audio-only podcast, you can still set up a YouTube page to put it out there. But all the major platforms, if you have a short format podcast, put it up on IGTV, put it up on Twitter, put up as many things as you can, the clips and all the things. Just do as much as you can. Number 3. That was my number 3 tip. Share it everywhere. Number 2, very, very important, consistency and reliability. It is so important. If you think about a podcast from a listener standpoint, or any show, whether it's a TV show or a podcast, the shows you love, when they get released. And if all of a sudden the NFL didn't have football on Sunday and they just put it off till Monday, people would be pissed. Okay, that same kind of anger over inconsistency translates to everything that's released on a regular basis. So if you're going to be putting out a podcast, figure out how often you want to release it, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, every other week, whatever, twice a week. Figure out what you think you can do. You can always add more later. If you're going weekly or if you're going monthly, you can eventually start doing 2 a month or weekly or whatever it is as you get used to it. But don't overextend yourself. Don't promise to do a weekly podcast and then end up putting it out every month. You're not going to be able to grow an audience that way. People get tired. People unsubscribe. They don't care. They want stuff that they can count on. If you're going to take a week off, like a lot of podcasters take the holidays off or certain times of the year off, either make sure you have fillers or make sure you inform your audience on podcasts leading up to that point that you're going to be taking a week off or whatever, that you're going to be missing some days. But consistency is super important. If you release your podcast every Saturday, release your podcast every Saturday. All the podcasters, all the big podcasters. Unless you're Joe Rogan, you can get away with he puts out so much content, it's whatever. But for everybody else, consistency, reliability, stick to a schedule, shoot low, don't overextend yourself, and put it out. And you can always add more. Same thing with the production. Keep it simple. Release schedule, keep it simple. Don't overdo it. When I started doing this one, I didn't start doing the Ray Taylor Show daily. It was 3 episodes a week, and then it was 5 a week. And then I was just like, well, if I'm doing 5, I might as well just do 7. But I couldn't have, if I just started off doing a daily podcast, it never would have been sustainable. So start small, grow from there, but consistency is important. But the number 1 tip that I could give to any podcaster, the most important thing is to have good audio quality. Doesn't take a lot to have good audio quality. It's more important than good video quality. The majority of people consume podcasts through their ear holes, so you want to treat their ear holes with respect. Okay? And it doesn't take a lot. Okay? You can get a Zoom recorder. Find a lot of these audio things you can find used right? Because there's a lot of podcasters that quit because they didn't listen to my tips, right? There's musicians that use this stuff that quit. A lot of people quit doing things. So you can find a lot of this audio equipment used. All of the equipment I'm using audio-wise is used. A Zoom recorder, they're amazing. The H4n, probably the most common used tool. You got these. I don't even know what model this is. Shure makes really good mics, but you can find like Guitar Center, or I'm sure Amazon. You can find used stuff, but try and get good audio quality. Don't eat on the microphone, right? I hate listening to people eat. There's no reason you should be eating on a microphone unless your show involves people eating. Unless part of your show is that you eat on the microphone, then that's it. But other than that, never eat on the microphone. Never eat on the microphone. It is the craziest thing that I've seen hugely popular podcasts do, and it's just disgusting. I personally hate it. Some people don't mind. Don't chew gum. Don't eat. Don't like slurp on soup or whatever you're doing. None of that. And you don't have to worry that much about soundproofing. I've never soundproofed a room that I've ever podcasted in. If you happen to be in a room that has a lot of echo, maybe consider doing something like that. Generally, if you get a microphone that's just a very singular directional microphone, not like an Omni mic, there's microphones that pick up all the ambient sound, and then there's microphones that you have to talk directly into, like the one I'm using here. Hit me up if you want to know the equipment I use. Then you don't have to worry about it. If it's something you have to talk directly into, then really soundproofing is kind of ridiculous. You don't need to have a studio that's set up like a professional radio station. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You just need good audio. Even if you add video later, audio is still the most important part. So make sure you have good audio. I have heard, I've listened and subscribed to podcasts that have, kind of substandard audio, but the content was good enough. But if you have a lot of audio issues, it gets difficult to listen to. So be honest with it. It's the most important thing. It's literally an audio medium. So if the audio is bad, you're not doing a good job. But let's go over my top 5 podcasting tips here real quick. Number 5, keep it simple. Keep the production simple. You can always grow. You can always add more to it later. That's number 5. Number 4, SEO. Use a notepad. Use a notepad to help out. It's one of the most boring, mindless things you have to do with podcasting. But using a notepad or using some kind of template to where you can just copy and paste makes it so you don't have to think about it. So easy. Number 3, to share it everywhere. Not only share the episodes everywhere on all available services, but promote it everywhere. Where are we at? Number 2, consistency and reliability. Pick a day that you want it to be released and stick to it. And figure out if you want to do it, monthly, weekly, daily, whatever it is. Pick a schedule, stick to it. You can always add more to it later. You can change it, you can dial it back too, but it's easier to add than to take away. So make sure consistency, one of the most important things. Number 1, the most important tip is to have good audio quality. But with all of these things, you can always upgrade. If you get like a snowball mic and it's doing okay, that's okay to start. Just don't have bad audio quality. Make sure you support our sponsor, Ting, that's cell phone service at a reasonable price. Get yourself $25 in credit either to apply to a new phone or your monthly bill. It's the best coverage, same low rates, now with 3 coast-to-coast networks. Go through my link, inspireddisorder.com/Ting, and get yourself $25 in credit. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com and follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!